I've been a Sonic fan since I was 8. Not the ironic, meme-loving kind of fan, no, I genuinely love the games. The fast-paced movement, the colorful worlds, the music that got stuck in your head for days. It was my childhood. That's probably why. When I saw a post on an obscure retro gaming forum about a rare Sonic prototype that was pulled for disturbing content, I couldn't resist. The post was from a user named BlueBlur93. No profile picture. No post history. Just that one thread titled, "Anyone else remember this Sonic game that talked back?" The post included a single link to a Google Drive file labeled Sonic.exe.zip. I know, it sounds cliché. But the thread wasn't written like a creepypasta. It was dry, technical, full of debug notes and references to internal Sega builds. I thought it might be a hoax, but the curiosity killed me. I downloaded it. To set up the zip file extracted into a folder with an old-style exe icon labeled simply, Sonic Game Real Exe. The moment I hovered over it, I noticed something strange. The description under the icon, where Windows usually displays the version or developer, read, "Run. He sees you." I laughed. Definitely a joke mod, probably one of those horror fan projects, but my antivirus didn't flag anything, so I clicked it. The game opened in a small, stretched 640-480 window with a familiar Sega logo, except the jingle was distorted, slowed down, and backwards. It sounded like a human voice trying to hum it through static. Then the title screen appeared. It looked almost normal. Sonic the Hedgehog. Except Sonic's eyes were pure black with bleeding red pupils. Again, standard horror mod stuff. Below it was press start flickering between red and white. I hit enter. There were 3 save slots, each empty. When I selected the first, the level select screen appeared, but there was only one zone available. Green Hill? The question mark was new. Green Hill? When the level loaded, I immediately noticed something was wrong. The usual bright sky was overcast and gray. The iconic looping hills looked wilted, their pixelated grass dull and dying. The music wasn't right. It was just a faint ringing sound like tinnitus mixed with wind. Sonic stood there idle, breathing. Not bouncing or smiling, breathing. His chest rose and fell, subtly but unnaturally. Someone had edited that in, I thought. Still, I moved him forward. A few seconds in, the first enemy, a motobug, was just stopped mid-frame, its animation frozen like time had paused for it. When I jumped into it, it didn't explode. It just fell over with a loud thud like a body hitting the ground. No score appeared. Further ahead, Tails stood on a hill, motionless. Normally, Tails wasn't even in the original Sonic 1. I pressed down to crouch, nothing. I tried jumping on him, nothing. But when I walked past him, my character stopped moving. The game froze for about 5 seconds before text appeared at the bottom of the screen. "Why did you leave me?" Then it cut to black level 2. Hide and seek. The next screen didn't return to the level select. It just faded into another title, Hide and Seek. The background was a forest rendered in 16-bit graphics, but somehow darker, blurrier. Like someone smeared Vaseline over the pixels. I started running right again, but Sonic's speed felt reduced. Each step was heavy, accompanied by faint footsteps, not the usual jumpy sound effects. Then I heard another set of steps behind me. At first, I thought it was part of the soundtrack. But the sound stopped when I stopped moving. I turned left. Nothing. I moved right again. And after a few seconds, the footsteps resumed. But faster this time. A flash of red flickered at the edge of the screen. Something was following me, but the camera wouldn't pan enough to show it. I tried running faster. The music, if you could call it that, turned into a low, thrumming heartbeat. Then the game froze again. Text appeared. "He's behind you." My character turned by himself. Standing there was another Sonic, but this one had pitch-black fur and bleeding eyes that seemed to drip onto the pixel ground. He didn't move. He just stared. Then, the screen glitched violently, images flashing too fast to process. I saw distorted sprites of Tails, Knuckles, Eggman, all with empty eyes, mouths gaping open as if screaming. Then suddenly my desktop flashed for half a second, like the game had minimized itself. But instead of seeing my icons, I saw my own desktop wallpaper replaced. It was a distorted screenshot from the game, showing my face faintly reflected on the monitor. The reflection at that point, I figured it had to be some kind of augmented horror mod, maybe using the webcam? I covered my webcam with tape just in case. When I reopened the game, the screen had changed again. You can't hide. It loaded me into what looked like a corrupted version of Green Hill again. Everything was red now, sky, ground, water. All the colors bleeding together like watercolor under rain. Bodies of the animal friends, the ones Sonic frees, were scattered across the level. Some were twitching. As I walked, Sonic's sprite started glitching, his limbs jerking unnaturally, head twitching to one side as if something was inside him, trying to push out. Then I heard it through my headphones, not music. Not a sound effect. A voice whispering, low, human. I can see you now. I froze. It sounded like it came from behind me in real life. I pulled off my headphones and spun around, nothing. Just my empty room. When I looked back, the game had paused itself. Text appeared again. Don't turn around again. The glitch becomes real at that point. My heart was pounding. I was half terrified, half fascinated. I needed to know how it was doing this. I tried Alt plus F4 to quit, but the game laughed. I swear, a distorted, low-pitched Sonic laugh came through my speakers. Then a pop-up appeared. You think this is a game? And the window expanded full screen on its own. Now Sonic's face filled the screen, his red eyes pulsing in rhythm with the distorted heartbeat sound. Then my monitor glitched, flickering static, and for half a second, I saw something else, a webcam feed, my webcam feed. I saw myself sitting there, staring at the screen, except my reflection in the feed was smiling. I ripped the tape off my webcam to check if it was somehow on, but the light wasn't even lit. The game wasn't running any visible process beyond the exe itself. When I looked back, the Sonic face was gone. In its place was my desktop again, but every icon had been renamed to Run. And then a new window opened on its own. Notepad. It typed automatically. You're in my world now. Real-life distortions, I'll admit it. I panicked. I pulled the plug on my PC. Total power cut. But when the fan stopped and the room went silent, I heard something else, footsteps, soft, rhythmic, on the carpet, coming from behind me. I turned so fast I nearly fell over my chair, but again, there was nothing there, no one. I live alone. I left the room, turned on every light in the house, checked every corner. Nothing. When I came back to the PC, it was still off. I decided to sleep it off, convince myself it was just nerves. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. That night I dreamed of running through Green Hill, except it was endless. Every time I looked behind me, I saw a red glow closing in. When I woke up, my monitor was on. The game was open again. The message now. This is the part where I started genuinely losing it. The game was on the title screen again, but instead of Sonic the Hedgehog, it said, "Welcome back. My name. My real name." I'd never entered it anywhere in the game. I unplugged the Ethernet cable. No chance this thing was online. I pressed a key. The screen went black. Then text appeared line by line. You think you can turn me off? You made me real. You played too long. Now it's your turn. After that, the screen filled with static. Then slowly, Sonic's face emerged again. But it wasn't the same. His features were more realistic, textured. I could see veins in his eyes, the glisten of wetness on his teeth. He blinked, and for a moment, I swear, the image flickered between Sonic and me. My own face, flickering back and forth with his. Then finally, the game crashed with a loud, distorted shriek that made my speakers buzz. The file vanished from my desktop. Just gone. The aftermath, that was 3 weeks ago. Since then, weird things have been happening. Every time I start my PC, the speakers let out a faint ring, like that same tinnitus sound from the game. I've reinstalled Windows. Twice. Replaced my hard drive. Nothing changes. Yesterday, while editing a photo, I noticed something in the reflection on my monitor. A pair of red dots. They weren't there in real life. I took a picture of my screen to prove it, and when I checked the photo, my eyes looked wrong. Completely black, with red pupils. I haven't touched a Sonic game since. But tonight, when I opened my file explorer, a new folder appeared on my drive. It's titled, Green Hill Real Inside. There's only one file, startgamenow.exe, and beneath it a text file that reads, Round 2? I haven't opened it yet. But my screen's been flickering as I type this, and every few seconds, I swear I hear that same faint breathing sound, coming not from the speakers, but from inside the case. If this is some kind of virus, it's the most advanced one I've ever seen. If it's not, then maybe when that guy online said the game talked back, he wasn't lying. Maybe he just didn't survive long enough to tell the rest. I know how it sounds, okay? A haunted Sonic plushie story. You've probably seen 100 of them online. Cheap, fake creepypastas with dramatic titles and pixelated thumbnails. But I'm not one of those people trying to go viral. I'm telling you this because I genuinely think whatever that thing was is still out there. And if you ever come across it, burn it. Don't keep it. Don't even touch it. Because that's how it gets in. It started like most mistakes do, with curiosity. I've been a Sonic collector since I was a kid. Comics, games, figurines, weird bootlegs from flea markets, you name it. There's something about that little blue hedgehog that stuck with me all my life. So when I stumbled across an online marketplace called Retro Finds one night, it was like falling down a nostalgic rabbit hole. I was scrolling through listings when one caught my eye. Rare Sonic the Hedgehog plush, 1990 prototype, not for sale in stores. There were only 2 photos. In the first, the plush was standing upright on a dusty table. Its fur faded but bright enough to catch light. The eyes weren't printed or embroidered, they were glassy, reflective, and unsettlingly realistic. The smile looked uneven, like it had been stitched by hand and tugged too tight on one side. The second photo was stranger. The plush was lying on its side, turned toward the camera, and though it was just a stuffed toy, the angle of the shot made it feel alive. The description said, "Found in storage after Sega promo event. No tag, collector's item. Plays sound when pressed. No return policy. No seller rating. Just a $25 price tag. I bought it immediately." It arrived 3 days later in a brown cardboard box with no return address. The handwriting on the label was rough, almost childlike, with shaky letters that looked like they'd been written in a hurry. Inside, the plush was wrapped in old newspaper dated 1996. When I lifted it out, a smell hit me, a mix of dust, mildew, and faint metal. The Sonic plush looked just like the photo. Blue fur, white gloves, that crooked grin. But those eyes, they didn't look like glass marbles anymore. They looked like eyes. The light reflected in them too sharply, like they had depth. Still, I laughed it off. Probably some off-brand prototype. There was a little circular button sewn into its chest. I pressed it, expecting one of those tinny, cheerful, "Let's go fast" clips. Instead, static crackled from inside it, followed by a distorted voice that said, "Gotta go fast." But it wasn't happy or excited. It was deep, rough, almost like someone whispering angrily through broken speakers. That first night, I put the plush on the shelf next to my old Genesis cartridges. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to a soft thud. It wasn't loud, just enough to stir me. I turned on my lamp, blinking, and saw it on the floor, face down. Maybe it fell off. The shelf was crowded. I put it back and went back to bed. The next morning, it was on the floor again, closer to the bed this time. By the third night, I was unsettled enough to test myself. I set my phone on the dresser and recorded overnight. When I checked the footage in the morning, my stomach dropped. At 2:47 a.m., the plush moved. It didn't fall, it walked. Tiny, twitching steps, one leg then the other. Awkward, but intentional, until it reached the edge of the shelf and dropped. Then it just stood there facing the camera. My breath caught in my throat as I replayed it. There was no string, no trick of the light. It moved like something alive. I deleted the video immediately. I didn't want that thing saved anywhere near me. The next night I woke again to whispering. I couldn't tell where it came from at first. It sounded like it was inside my room, but not quite in it. Just around my ear, faint. I heard the words clearly. "Gotta go fast." I sat up, heart pounding. The room was empty. My eyes flicked to the shelf. The plush was gone. I found it under the bed, lying face up, staring at me. I picked it up with shaking hands and threw it into the closet. Over the next few nights, things escalated. I'd hear faint rustling on the carpet while I tried to sleep. The closet door would creak open by itself no matter how firmly I shut it. Once, while brushing my teeth, I saw something dart across the hallway mirror behind me, blue and white. When I turned, the hallway was empty. I tried telling myself it was sleep deprivation, that my brain was playing tricks on me. But the fifth night shattered that illusion. I woke up again, 2:43 a.m., same as always. except this time I didn't hear a thud. I heard breathing, soft, rhythmic, like someone was crouched at the foot of my bed. I didn't move. I just listened. Then I felt a tug on the blanket. I snapped my hand down, half expecting to grab the edge of the fabric, but instead I felt fur. Soft, fuzzy, warm. I yanked the blanket back and froze. The sonic plush was there, gripping the edge of the blanket with its tiny white hands. Its grin had changed. It was wider, ripping slightly at the corners, revealing a second row of small, needle-like teeth beneath the stitching. Its eyes glowed faintly red, and when it moved, I swear I heard it giggle. I screamed and threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a heavy thump and slid down. Then I heard something impossible, footsteps. Tiny, rapid, running out into the hallway. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I shoved the plush into a trash bag, tied it tight, and threw it in the dumpster behind my building. I watched the garbage truck come later that day, lift the container, and crush it. I felt relief for the first time all week. That night, I fell asleep instantly, but at 3 a.m., I woke to a familiar sound. Thud. I turned on the light. My breath caught. The sonic plush was sitting on the shelf again. Dirty, torn, its fur matted, one glass eye cracked, but it was back. That was it. I packed what I could into my car the next morning and left town. I didn't tell anyone. I just drove. For 2 weeks, I stayed with friends in another city, trying to convince myself I'd imagined everything. When I finally went back to pick up the last of my things, the landlord handed me an envelope. "This came for you," he said. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Me asleep in my bed. The photo had been taken from the corner of the room, the angle matching where my shelf had been. On the nightstand next to me was the sonic plush. Watching. Scrawled underneath the photo in blue marker were 3 words. "You're too slow." I moved to a new apartment immediately. No Sonic merch, no games, nothing. I thought I was finally free, but some nights I'd wake up feeling like eyes were on me. I'd catch faint sounds in the dark, soft thuds or the whisper of fabric on carpet. I told myself it was anxiety. Then the dreams started. Every night I'd be running through Green Hill Zone, endless, looping. The world was wrong. Colors faded, sky blackened, and instead of music I heard static. Sonic ran ahead of me, laughing, faster and faster until he vanished. Then I'd hear something chasing me. Footsteps behind me, always closing in. A whisper in my ear, "Can't outrun me." I'd wake drenched in sweat every time. Months passed. I forced myself to move on. Then one afternoon, while unpacking boxes, I found something at the bottom of one. A small clump of blue fur. My stomach turned. I hadn't owned anything blue since moving. I stared at it for a full minute before my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "No caller ID," I answered, static. Then a low, grainy voice. "Miss me?" I dropped the phone. It hit the floor and stayed on, the call still connected. Through the faint hiss, I heard breathing, then a whisper. "Look behind you." I turned slowly. The hallway was empty. For a second, everything was silent. Then thud. From the darkness of the hall. Then another. Closer I ran. I didn't stop to grab anything. Just bolted barefoot out the door and down the stairs. I spent 3 days at a friend's place before working up the courage to go back. When I did, everything in the apartment was untouched. Except for one thing. The sonic plush was sitting neatly on my bed. Clean. Perfect. Not a speck of dirt, not a tear in sight. Its smile was back to normal, I snapped. I grabbed it, took it to the bathtub, poured lighter fluid on it, and struck a match. The flame caught instantly. The fur blackened and curled, and then the sound started. It screamed. A shrill, distorted digital scream that made my ears ring. The flame flickered blue for a second before dying down to smoke. When it was over, all that remained were 2 glass eyes glinting in the tub. I flushed them down the toilet. I didn't even check if they went down all the way. I just wanted them gone. For the next week, everything seemed normal again. No noises, no whispers. I started to believe it was really over. But then one night I woke up gasping from another dream. Green Hill Zone, static everywhere, red sky overhead, and my phone lit up. One new text. Unknown number, it said, "Round 2?" I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. I told myself it was just someone messing with me. But when I checked my front door the next morning, there was a small box sitting there. No label inside was a handful of ashes, and 2 tiny glass eyes. I used to work at a small retro game repair shop. You know the kind. Dusty old consoles, walls lined with cartridge shelves, the faint smell of solder and burned plastic. I'd been fixing GameCubes and Dreamcasts for years, so when someone brought in weird old Sega stuff, it usually ended up on my desk. But what came in that day? That thing should have never existed. It was a Sega Saturn disc. No label, no markings, just a dull silver surface with Sonic Experiment scratched into it by hand. The customer was this jittery older guy, maybe late 40s, wearing a faded Sonic Team t-shirt that looked like it hadn't been washed in years. He slid the case across the counter and said, "Won't read anymore. Can you back it up, please?" His voice was tight, anxious. I asked him where it came from. He just said, "Don't play it too long," then left. That's not normal. Still, I'm a sucker for weird prototypes, so I took it home that night to dump the ISO onto my PC. Curiosity kills, right? But sometimes it drags you screaming first. The disc booted immediately. No Sega logo, no startup jingle, just a black screen with faint static noise. After a few seconds, white text appeared. Sonic Experiment version 0.91. Confidential build property of Sega internal testing. Then the static shifted into something like breathing. Slow, labored, almost human. I thought maybe the disc was scratched. Looping, corrupted audio. But then the main menu faded in. It wasn't like any Sonic game I'd seen. The title was just Sonic. The background wasn't Green Hill or Marble Zone. It was a dark, empty field with a single spotlight illuminating Sonic standing there. He wasn't smiling. His head tilted slightly downward, and his shadow on the ground was twitching, even when he stood still. There was only one option. Play. I pressed enter, the first level. The screen faded to black, and text appeared, "He runs." You follow. Then I was in control. The level looked like Green Hill Zone at first, but something was off. The colors were washed out. The sky was gray, the grass dull, the water thick and sluggish. Sonic's animation looked slow, heavy, like every movement took effort. There was no music, just faint wind and what sounded like someone whispering under it. After about 30 seconds of running, I noticed something strange. Sonic's reflection in the water wasn't matching my movements. When I jumped, it didn't. When I stopped, it kept running. Then the reflection turned around. It looked directly up at me through the screen and smiled. The game froze for a few seconds, then glitched violently. When it came back, Sonic's sprite was gone. I was controlling the reflection. Level 2. Follow him. The next title card said simply, "Follow him." The background was darker now, the sky almost black and the environment twisted like the pixels were melting. Sonic, my reflection Sonic, ran forward faster and faster. The usual rings and enemies were gone. The only sound was that same distorted breathing, louder now. As I kept running, the game camera zoomed out gradually until I saw there were two Sonics. One ahead, one behind. The one in front looked like the normal sprite. The one I controlled had red-tinted fur and black eyes. After about 2 minutes, the lead Sonic tripped and fell. The camera zoomed in as the red Sonic, my Sonic, walked up to him. The controls stopped working. I pressed buttons, nothing. Then the red Sonic reached out and grabbed the other by the throat. The screen shook. There was a short, muffled snap, then silence. The normal Sonic's body fell limp. The red one turned to face the camera. Its mouth opened. Static filled the screen and faintly through the noise. A voice whispered, "You shouldn't be watching." Then the game minimized itself automatically. The first glitch, when I checked my desktop, something impossible had happened. My wallpaper, the photo of my dog I'd had for years, was replaced. It was a screenshot of the game. Of me. It was my reflection in the monitor, faintly visible behind the Sonic sprite. I immediately yanked my mouse to close the window, but a new folder appeared on the desktop. Run. Inside were dozens of image files, each one a blurry screenshot of my room. Taken from different angles. At first I thought maybe my webcam was hacked, but when I unplugged it, the game popped back open by itself. The third level, this one was called Home. The layout was nothing like a game anymore. It was a house. A small, dimly lit 2D environment with pixelated furniture, windows, and a staircase. The lighting was strangely accurate, almost too detailed for the Saturn. Then I realized something that made my skin crawl. The house looked like mine. Same layout, same windows, same stairs. Even the flickering lamp in the corner, it was identical to the one in my real room. I moved Sonic through the rooms, and with every step, the background audio started to distort further, like faint murmurs blending with static. When I walked into the bedroom, the game froze again. The camera panned to the pixelated bed, and lying on it was a sprite of a man. The caption appeared, "He's still sleeping." Then slowly, Sonic's sprite turned toward the screen. Another caption, "Wake him up." My keyboard started to vibrate, like a faint rumbling under my fingertips. The monitor flickered, and for a second I saw my own face reflected in Sonic's black eyes on screen. Then the voice came through the speakers. Not from the game, from behind me. "Wake up." I spun around so fast my chair toppled. The room was empty. I turned back and the monitor was black except for white text. "You're in my level now." Then it crashed. The aftermath, I sat there shaking. I knew this wasn't a normal disc. I thought maybe someone had coded a horror ARG or some kind of malware to mess with people. But when I opened my file directory, there was no sign of the game. The ISO wasn't on my system. Even the folder I'd saved it in was gone. I pulled out the disc to destroy it, but when I flipped it over, the words, "Sonic at Experiment," had changed. The surface now had new etching, faint but visible. "He's out." I dropped it. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that face, the twisted Sonic sprite with black eyes and the grin that didn't stop. I tried throwing the disc out the next morning, but when I got to the dumpster, the bag felt lighter. I looked inside, empty. It had vanished. The knock 2 nights later, I heard knocking. 3 short taps on my door. It was nearly 3 a.m. I didn't move. I live alone. The knock came again, louder. When I looked through the peephole, my heart nearly stopped. Someone was standing there. A man, tall and thin, wearing a faded Sonic Team shirt. His face was hidden by the shadow of his hood. He didn't move. I backed away, but then I heard a voice muffled through the door. "You played it too long." My blood turned to ice. It was the same man who'd dropped off the disc. When I looked again, he was gone, but lying at the doorstep was a small plastic case. The disc, the video, I didn't touch it. I called my coworker, Nate. He's into modding and debugging weird builds. I told him the whole thing, how the disc wasn't normal, how it was doing things to my computer. He laughed. Thought I was pranking him. I gave him the disc just to prove it. The next day, he didn't show up for work. That night, I got a text from his number. "It's not a game," then another. "He runs." And then an image attachment, blurry, dark but unmistakable. It was Nate's computer screen. Sonic's face filled the monitor. Eyes black, grin stretched unnaturally wide. I called him again and again, no answer. 2 days later, his girlfriend reported him missing. They found his car still running, parked outside his apartment. The driver's seat was empty, but in the passenger seat the cops found a Sega Saturn controller and a piece of paper that said, "He caught me." The final session, I told myself I wouldn't touch it again. But curiosity is poison. I needed to know. I found Nate's backup drive while cleaning out the shop, a copy of his test environment. Inside one folder was a file labeled experiment.log.txt. The last few lines said, "It's learning. It knows names now." I heard it in my apartment, breathing. It's not trapped in the disk anymore. That night, my computer turned on by itself. No joke, middle of the night, monitor glowed blue, fans spinning. On the screen was one line of text, "Play again." I didn't touch anything. I just stared. Then my speakers hissed and the voice whispered, "He's waiting." I pulled the power cord. The screen went black. For a few seconds, I thought it was over. But then in the reflection of the dark monitor, I saw movement behind me. A shape. Blue. Smiling. When I turned, nothing was there. But on my desk lay the disc. Cracked, burned, but still whole enough to reflect my face, except it wasn't my reflection. It was Sonic's. The last entry. It's been 3 weeks. Every electronic in my house turns on by itself around 2:47 a.m. My phone, my TV, even my old Dreamcast. Always static first, then faint breathing. I've tried moving. Tried throwing away every device. It doesn't matter. It follows the signal. Yesterday, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. blueblurOutlook.com. No subject. Just an attachment, an ISO file named Sonic Experiment Final. I deleted it immediately. Or at least I tried to. The file wouldn't go away. It just renamed itself Run Me. When I hovered over it, a small preview appeared. Not a sonic sprite, no. A live feed of my room, except I wasn't alone in the image. Standing behind me, half hidden in the dark, was something tall, thin, and blue. And as I stared, my speakers crackled again. Round 3. They say old media sometimes carries bits of energy from its creation, code that decays, ghost made of data. I don't know what that thing is. AI, demon, virus. But I know it's using Sonic's image as a shell. It's spreading. Through disks, files, cameras.